من بذار ببینم. request permission.
فکر میکنم آنها میتوند به شما اینو بدن.
من ریکوست فرستادم.
اوکی.
آره. آقای فرهادی، من عاشق سینمای شما هستم و مخصوصا فیلم های قبلی 2 فیلم جدید ندیدم، ولی فیلم که در اسپین درست کردی خیلی خوب بود. من خیلی دوست دارم.
مرسی. منم خیلی فرهنگ هند رو دوست داشتم و خیلی دوست داشتم این سفر خودم حضوری میمدم هند، ولی چون شب سال نو ایرانیه با
آره.
خانواده پیش نیومد، ولی هند رو خیلی دوست دارم. هند زیاد اومدم.
آره، امیدوارم که میتونیم شما رو بیاریم در آینده. آره من خیلی دوست دارم با شما در این پرسن صحبت کنم.
مرسی. حتما.
شما کجای الی هستی؟
من از کلکته هستم، یعنی در کلکته زندگی میکنم، ولی اینجا دعوت شدم در یه رسیدنسی گلدن گلوب فاوندیشن و فیلم ایندیپندنت ارگنایز کردند و فیلم اول دبیو فیلم من که یک مستند است که در ایران ساختم. آره، راجب سینما و شعر فروغه.
آفرین.
What's the name of the film? اسم فیلم چیه؟
It's called به کوچه خوشبخت. It's inspired by line from Furug's poem. و در برلیناله بود پارسال در پانوراما.
چه خوب.
و خیلی دوست دارم با شما شیر کنم فیلمو هر موقع که
من چقدر خوشحال شدم راجع به فروغ کار کردین.
آره خیلی آره inspired، الهام گرفتم از فروغ. خیلی آره شعر
و میتونید فارسی بخونید؟
آره یواش ولی میتونم.
میتونید بخونید؟ چه خوب. یعنی شعر فارسی میتونید بخونید؟
آره شعر فروغ میتونم بخونم، ولی مثلا حافظ و سعدی این شاعرها سخت داره، ولی فروغ آسان داره.
آفرین. چه خوب.
آره.
چه خوب.
I guess we are about to begin soon.
Yeah. Hi, Srimoy.
Yes.
This is Vipin.
Hi.
Shall we start the session? It's exactly 9:31.
Yeah.
I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
A very good evening to all of you, and morning and day, depending on where you are. Myself, Anirban Dotto, and it's absolute pleasure for me to welcome you into this special second session of our e-conversation. I know many of you have been eagerly waiting for this session where we talk to one of the finest masters of contemporary cinema, Asghar Farhadi. We would not delay much and will request our Dean and the Artistic Director of Arcuria to share a few words and talk about the session and start it. Over to you, Vipin.
Thank you, Anirban. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. A very good evening. I welcome acclaimed filmmaker Mr. Asghar Farhadi to the session. Welcome to all of my esteemed colleagues and all the students for today's session of Arcuria 2024 e-conversation. Arcuria, I'll say a few words about this special program. Mr. Farhadi was supposed to come here and we hope he's soon going to come here because the students over here are so eager to meet and have a dialogue and observe you take a workshop sort of situation. But then this was a very special context in which we wanted you to be here. We conceived the Arcuria, the program at the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute in Calcutta, which is one of the two national film schools in India. Well, the program actually emerged as an endeavor which was trying to center it around, the very idea of archiving, curating, and restoration, with a primary idea to reclaim the Indian cinema heritage. So when we looked at it, we conceived it as a transcultural attempt, at the same time with the willingness to adopt to the new perspectives, technologies, and methodologies, so that we could appreciate, document, and share the rich legacy of cinematic contribution. So we actually had a formal inauguration for which you were the guest of honor. You still are our guest of honor. But it's just that it's a virtual presence. We inaugurated the session yesterday. For us, at SRFTI, this becomes an attempt to assess the responsiveness of cinema students to the mechanisms of retrieving and creating memory, and exploring innovative strategies to inject new perspectives into the academic discourse. So as part of that, we conceived this e-conversation series of dialogues delivered by prominent filmmakers to delve into the art and craft of filmmaking, and to also understand the creative self of a master filmmaker like you. So I am not taking much of your time. The students are waiting to hear it from the master himself. It is a great honor for us at SRFT to have you here as part of Arcuria. Thank you so much, Mr. Farhadi. We are extremely pleased. Without further ado, may I request Anirban to introduce Srimoy Singh and take the proceedings further, and welcome Srimoy Singh for this to this session too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And as I talk in my language in Farsi, and Ryan will help me to translate my words.
Sure.
So, اول میخوام سلام بکنم به همه دانشجوهایی که دارن جلسه رو میبینند.
I just want to first say hi to all the students who are watching this session.
و بگم که خیلی متاسفم که نتونستم، به خاطر علیرغم که قرار بود بیام، ولی به خاطر اینکه همزمان با سال نو ایرانی و معمولا همه دوره هم با خانواده ها هستن، این سفر رو نتونستم بیام، ولی خیلی در واقع مشتاق بودم که تو این مراسم حضوراً باشم.
And unfortunately, I just want to say, unfortunately, despite I really wanted to be there for the in-person session, unfortunately, because it is at the same time that the Iranian New Year is happening, and when the Iranian New Year is happening, all the families are together. I couldn't come over.
ولی میدونم که با در واقع فیلمسازای جوان هندی در تماس هستم، در کشورهای مختلف که میرم باشون در تماس هستم و برام خیلی جای خوشحالیه که اونها سینمای ایران رو میشناسن، فیلمسازهای ایرانی رو میشناسن و خود فرهنگ در واقع روابط خانوادگی توی هند و ایران اینقدر به هم نزدیکه که باعث شده که انگار بیش از فرهنگ‌های دیگه نزدیک باشن به فیلم‌های ایرانی و فیلم‌هایی که من ساختم.
But I have to say that I am in touch with the young Indian filmmakers. When I go to different countries, I talk to a lot of Indian filmmakers. And I have to say, because the family dynamics in Iran and India are very close to each other, so جمله آخرتون رو فراموش کردم.
باشه که اونها بهتر بفهمند فیلم‌های ایرانی رو، من رو بعضی موقع چیزایی که میگن احساس کنم که کاملا انگار یه ایرانی فیلم‌ها رو دیده.
Since the family dynamic between Iran and India are very close to each other, I feel like they really understand my films, as if when they explain their films to me, it is as if like Iranian is explaining the movies to me.
Okay.
همچنین یکی از دلایلی که دوست داشتم تو این در واقع جلسه و تو این موضوع شرکت کنم و صحبت کنم اسم ساتیاجیت رای که یکی از فیلمسازهای محبوب و خیلی شناخته شده است در ایران.
And another reason that I wanted to participate in this session is because of the name of Satija,
Satyajit Ray, yeah.
Ray, yes. And he's a very well-known filmmaker in Iran, and I respect him very much, and I wanted to participate in this session because of it.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, sir. And it is
Thank you so
your
much.
presence and your time is extremely precious for us. And we are extremely honored to have you here. And let me now introduce a very dear friend and outstanding new making voice from India, Shrimoy Singh, who comes from Calcutta, has done her master's and PhD from Jadavpur University. Her debut film, Towards Happy Alice, is a statement for a fascination for Iranian cinema, poetry, and culture. And the film encounters filmmakers like Jafar Panahi, Mohammad Shirvani, and the film has traveled to 20 or more international film festivals, including Panorama in Berlin. And it's really a very poetic, insightful documentary. And I sincerely thank Shrimoy to take this position and moderate to this session and talk to one of the finest masters of cinema. So we have a very young, talented cinematic voice in conversation with our master, Asghar Farhadi, sir. So over to you, Shrimoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anirvanda and the whole team of SRFTI for allowing me to moderate this session. It is indeed a dream come true to be in conversation with Mr. Farhadi. I missed talking to you when I was filming in Iran because you were not in Iran then. But this feels like destiny. So thank you to the whole team for having me moderate this session. Please allow me to introduce you. Though Mr. Farhadi needs no introduction, especially in among young filmmakers who have loved Iranian cinema, have spent so much time watching Iranian cinema. We know how much Iranian cinema has impacted our lives, as filmmakers who are finding their own voices in our own country. So your films have really impacted us. So a few words about Mr. Farhadi. He is like Anirvanda said, one of the finest master filmmakers who began his career in Iran as a filmmaker, but his films have traveled to all corners of the world, including India. With a prolific background in television and writing and theater, Mr. Farhadi began his career with his first film, Dancing in the Dust, in 2003, Shahre-Ziba in 2004, Fireworks Wednesday, Charshanbe Suri in 2006. But everyone came to know him after, and people discovered him in other parts of the world after About Ellie, which won the Silver Bear in 2009 for the Best Director. He brought pride to Iranians and filmmakers from all parts of the world, with winning the Academy Award for the Best International Film for Separation in 2011, and again winning it for Salesman in 2016. We were all cheering for you, sir, and we can't tell you how much pride you filled our lives with. With a master's in stage direction from the University of Tehran, Mr. Farhadi, as I said, has spent a considerable part of his early career in theater. His first, so is it the first one? Television series was there, Sheher, or in the city, which was inspired by a series by the same name, which used to broadcast in Iran, which spoke about urban social problems. And Mr. Farhadi made a series, which was a long series on the crew that made the film, right, sir? And
Yeah.
he's also written for another prominent filmmaker, co-written for Ibrahim Hatamikia, whose works a lot of us from outside Iran may not know, but I totally recommend you all to check it out. For the film Etefai Past, in English it's called Low Heights. But the most important bit is his achievements um, are not just limited to the international acclaim, but for the love and repute he finds within his countrymen. And I can say this as a witness, first-hand witness in Iran. Iranians love you, sir, and they respect you so much for fighting to create a space to show your films in Iran. And among the Grand Prix and the Golden Bears, he also holds dearly the Crystal Simorg from Faj Film Festival. And that is a testament of how much love people in his country feel for him. His films depict real characters, oftentimes encountering ethical dilemmas in a world that is morally fragile with misplaced judgment. Um, he um, he belongs to a school of filmmakers who began making films after the revolution in 1979. But he continues the legacy of filmmakers like Dariush Meherjui, Bahram Beizai, and Masude Kimiai. So thank you so much, sir. I hope I said everything correctly, but there's so much more to say about you. And we are truly honored to have you.
Thank,
And I'm so proud that this is being organized by a film school from Calcutta. And Calcutta is a city that is so close to all of our hearts. And thank you for this.
thank you. Thank you for all this information and very precise. And your pronunciation of titles is very good. So you know Farsi language. Okay, thank you. And I hope this meeting will be useful for students. And if they have any specific questions about my films, about creativity there, which they didn't find in internet, they didn't find in my interviews, I'm here to answer that if I can. But thank you
Yeah.
for all the comments.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Shall we, how do we do this? Shall we begin with a few questions?
Yeah, up to you.
And
We can start with
okay.
your question, and you are free. I'm open for
Okay.
everything.
Okay. So since there are so many young filmmakers and filmmakers from India truly know your work, and they know the context of cinema that comes from Iran, and we truly love Iranian cinema, but we are all struggling to begin our first films, and struggling to find motivation and inspiration in a world that is actually crumbling around us, even in India. So, would you begin by sharing how it all began for you? You know, what was that personal incident in life, or something personal that made you believe that you should pick up a camera and make a film?
Yeah, that's very good question. I say in Farsi. خیلی سوال خوبیه و میدونم که خیلی از کسایی که علاقه‌مندن که فیلم بسازن یا بنویسن همیشه با این سوال روبروان.
It's a very good question, and I know that everybody who's like wanted to make a film, they always face this question as well.
در واقع از خودشون میپرسن که از کجا باید شروع کنم.
Basically, they ask themselves, where should I start?
من جوابم همیشه توی مصاحبه‌ام یک کلمه بوده و به نظر هنوز بعد از این همه سال فکر کنم که این جواب درستیه.
And I always had one answer to that question. And after all these years, I still think that's the right answer.
به نظرم میاد که هر کسی از ناخودآگاه خودش باید شروع کنه.
I think that everybody should start from their own subconscious.
همونجور که بارها و بارها اینو گفتم چون مهمه باز تکرار میکنم، ما در درون خودمون از بچگی یه بانکی وجود داره که چیزایی که در محیطمون میبینیم یا میشنویم از دیگران یا میخونیم همه اینا رو بدون که خودمون متوجه بشیم توی این بانک داریم سیو میکنیم.
As I said this before, many times before, I believe that we have a bank, emotional bank in ourselves, but that it's like fill up during our childhood by the things that we see around us in our environment.
این ناخودآگاه ما بیشتر در کودکیمون چیزایی که درش هست جمع میشه و کالکت میشه، به خاطر اینکه ما در کودکی سنسورهای حساستری داریم، بیشتر دنیا رو مشاهده میکنیم، کنجکاوتریم.
And most of this emotional bank fills up during our childhood because we are more sensitive to our environment when we are a child. We are more observers when we are a child.
وقتی که سن ما میره بالاتر این بانک پر میشه و یه جای احساس کنیم دیگه جا نداره، باید یکم خالی بشه.
And when we get older, this bank fills up and we feel like there is no more space in this bank and we have to empty it one more time.
و این لحظه‌ایه که دچار یه بیقراری میشیم، ناآروم میشیم و راهش برای آروم کردن خودمونه که یه چیزی خلق کنیم.
And this is the moment that we feel restless and we don't know what to do, and that's the moment that we feel that we have to create something.
در این لحظه من وقتی که دچار این حالت میشم، تو این سنم اینجوری هستم هنوز، شروع میکنم میرم تو اون ناخودآگاهم میگردم و اون چیزهایی رو که بعد از سالها فراموش نشده و ته‌نشین شده توی بانک عاطفی من، اونها رو در واقع پیدا میکنم.
After all these years, even at this age, I still feel those moments. And when I feel those moments, I go and try to reach out to my subconscious and try to get the things that I haven't forgotten, but they're synced in, and try to bring them up.
وقتی که با این شروع میکنیم، با ناخودآگاهمون شروع میکنیم، چیزی که خلق میکنیم سوای کیفیت هنری و سینماییش، مهمترین ویژگیش اینه که این مال خود ماست، شبیه خود ماست.
When we do it this way, when we touch our subconscious, we try to use our subconscious, well, and I'm not talking about the quality, the cinematic quality of the film, but what we are sure about it is that when we use that, it's ours. That thing is coming from us.
مثلا بعضی موقع من میبینم که یه لحظه عاطفی خاصیه که سالهاست تو درون منه، نمیدونم از کجا اومده، شاید در بچگی اومده و این هیچ موقع فراموش نمیشه. یه چیز خیلی حتی قابل بیان نیست، اینقدر یه حس مبهمه.
And sometimes I have this very emotional thing going on inside me for years that I don't know where it's coming from, probably from my childhood, but it's always there and I have to bring it up.
و چون بعد از سالها این فراموش نشده و با من مونده، حتما یه چیز مهمیه.
And because after all these years I haven't forgotten this feeling, it seems that it's something very important.
و بعد اون میشه یه جرقه‌ای، اون مثل در واقع یه پسوردیه به اون ورود به اون بانک عاطفی که من دارم و میرم اون تو و چیزهای دیگری رو توش پیدا میکنم.
And that thing, that emotion is like a spark or like a password that opens everything, so it makes me reach out and try to find other stuff inside me.
پسورد اون بانک عاطفیه.
Basically, it's a password to that emotional bank.
پس تمام این صحبت رو کردم که بگم همه ما یه چیزی یه چیز با ارزشی در درونمون هست که اول از همه باید اون رو بریم متوجهش بشیم و از اون استفاده کنیم.
So I said all of this to let you guys know that there is something very precious inside us that before doing anything, we have to try to find that precious thing first and foremost.
این که میریم در واقع دانشگاه، این که کتاب میخونیم، که فیلم میبینیم، که خیلی چیزا یاد میگیریم، این مال مرحله بعده که اون چیزی رو که درون ناخودآگاهمونه چجوری بتونیم با این ابزارها با دیگران در واقع شیر کنیم، تقسیم کنیم با دیگران.
So the fact that we read books, the fact that we go to the school, all of these things should be after finding that precious stuff inside you to be able to share those precious emotions that you have in your subconscious with the world.
Ryan, let's try correct this sentence. It doesn't mean after. It's at the beginning is subconscious, going to subconscious, and then later we use that tools to make a piece of art to share with other people. Okay, so پس من به طور خلاصه راجع به شروع کار در واقع هر فیلمی که ساختم یا هر چیزی که نوشتم بگم که تصمیم آگاهانه برای اینکه اون کار رو انجام بدم در آغاز نبوده.
So therefore, I want to say that any work that I've made all these years, they were not a conscious choice to make them. They were all subconscious.
مثلا این رو بارها گفتم، مثلا برای فیلم درباره الی من یه تصویر یه مردی رو داشتم که تنهاست کنار دریا، یه غروبیه، لباساش خیسه و انگار تازه از آب بیرون اومده و این تصویر همیشه با من بود. دلم میخواست بدونم که این مرد چرا اونجاست و این شروع در واقع درباره الی بود. یه جرقه‌ای بود که هیچ در واقع ازش نمیدونستم و شروع کردم هی با سوال کردن قصه رو پیدا کنم.
For example, I said this before, but for about Ellie, I had this image of this man who's looking at the ocean, at the sunset. His clothes are all wet. And this image was always with me. And I started asking questions about this image. And that's how I started to understand what the story is about.
Image of the man or the woman? I think he means
A
the
man.
woman.
A man.
A man.
Okay.
Yeah.
A man. Okay.
بعدها متوجه شدم که این از یه خاطره ای از من میاد، چون در دوره دانشجویی ما یه گروه دانشجو بودیم که همیشه میرفتیم شمال ایران کنار دریا یه جایی رو اجاره میکردیم و میموندیم و خیلی خوش میگذشت و من در اوج اون خوشی همیشه نگران این بودم که اگر یکی از بچهای گروه بره توی آب و غرق بشه چی میشه. اون تصویر انگار از اونجا با من اومده بود.
Later, I found out that because when we were like students, we would go with like my student friends to the north of Iran, close to the Caspian Sea, and it was like a very great time. We had great times over there, but I always had this fear in me that what would happen if one of our friends would go inside the ocean and never comes back. And I think that image came from that fear.
بعد که این تصویر پیدا شد از ناخودآگاه یا اون حس پیدا شد، چجوری میتونیم این یه جرقه رو تبدیل کنیم به یه آتیش بزرگ، یه داینامیک بزرگ، با سوال کردن از خودمون و با هیچ کس. این یه چیز خیلی خصوصیه، در این مرحله هیچ چیزی به هیچ کس نمیگیم، فقط خودمون میپرسیم که این مرد کیه، چرا تنها ایستاده کنار آب، چرا لباساش خیسه، خانواده‌اش کجان. هزاران سوال میپرسیم و جوابای پراکنده که از توی جوابا وقتی کنار هم میشینیم یه داستان مبهمی میتونیم پیدا کنیم.
So now the question is like, after you find that image or you find that emotion in you, and that's a spark, how can you turn that spark into actual fire? And the answer is by asking yourself questions about that image or that emotion. Constantly you're asking that, and you don't share this with anyone. You just ask yourself questions and you have like different answers scattered around. And then you put those answers slowly together and then you gradually find the answer, find the story.
و همه پاسخهای این سوالایی که در واقع دارید جواب میدین رو نیازی نیست بهش فکر کنید، اینا از ناخودآگاهتون جواب میگیره.
And the answers that you give to these questions, you shouldn't really think about them. They're coming from your subconscious.
Okay.
ഞാൻ ഈ
Yeah.
കോയമ്പത്തൂരിൽ സമയത്ത് മുതൽ ഈ ആക്സിസ് ബാങ്കിന്റെ അക്കൗണ്ട് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നതാണ്. പക്ഷെ ഇത്ര കാലം എനിക്ക് എൻ്റെ സർവീസ് ചാർജ് ഇതൊന്നും പിടിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷെ കുറച്ച് ദിവസമായിട്ട് കഴിഞ്ഞ 2 മാസമായിട്ട് സർവീസ് ചാർജ് പിടിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. 136, 196 ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ട്. ഞാൻ ഇപ്പോൾ അക്കൗണ്ട് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ മൈനസ് ആണ് പൈസ. എന്താ ഏർപ്പാടാ? മിനിമം ബാലൻസ് വേണമെന്നുണ്ടോ അതിൽ?
Okay. Sir, yeah, that is something very interesting that you shared, that you know how we should dig within ourselves and find the fulcrum or that emotion that we might have had since our childhood, but we don't maybe know about it. But to dig deep within and find that emotion that has the potential for most of the stories that we are about to tell. And it
Yeah.
is important that we start the conversation with that feeling or that emotion, but the questions between us, our conscious mind, and that emotion subconsciously need
Yes.
not be rational, right? Like we shouldn't think about the questions if we are asking the right questions, but the act of asking or being in
Yes.
conversation with that emotion that we have within us is important.
Exactly. در واقع وقتی که من میگم سوال میکنیم میتونه اصلا نیازی سوالای جدی بپرسیم. خیلی سوالای ساده است که انگار یه بچه‌ای راجع به یه چیزی که کنجکاوه میپرسه و این پاسخها باعث میشه که هی این در واقع چیزی که مبهمه، مثل یه سنگی که توش یه مجسمه هست، ما میتراشیم تا به اون سنگه برسیم.
So basically, when I say we're asking questions, I don't mean like asking like a serious, important question. It could be very simple, unimportant question, as if like a child is asking questions about something. So you, by asking these small and simple questions, is as if you are carving out a statue out of a stone gradually.
در واقع نکته‌ای که بخوام مهمه که منتقل کنم اینه که ما با این سوال کردن یه مکالمه‌ای با خودمون برقرار میکنیم و صادقانه اون چیزی که مال خودمونه رو پیدا میکنیم. اگه ما سوالهای خیلی پیچیده بپرسیم در همین مرحله، مثل سوالهای فلسفی، پاسخهایی که ما داریم میدیم پاسخهایی نیست که از درونمون بیاد، پاسخهاییه که ما از جایی دیگه خوندیم. به همین دلیل میگم چیزای ساده در واقع فقط پاسخهای خودمون رو پیدا کنیم براش که بشه داستان مال خود ما.
The reason I'm saying that these questions should be simple is because you have to be in conversation with yourself. And if that question should come, that answer should come from your subconscious. Because if you're asking like a very philosophical questions, therefore you start thinking about the answers. And then you are like, then the answer's not coming from within you. That's the main reason that you have to start with the simple questions and you answer them like and with a very simple answers.
Right.
This is just the first part of, start. It's before beginning, even before beginning with this, and then you will find just maybe 2 lines or 3 lines not clear about a story, and the other process is completely different, which if we have time, I can explain about that.
Yes, sir, we do. Like, if you would like to explain it. And then
Yeah,
after
so-
this, we take questions from the students, but
Okay.
we'd really like to hear you talk.
Okay.
Yes.
So توی این وضعیتی که ما با خودمون داریم در واقع تلاش میکنیم که از درون خودمون، از توی قلب خودمون یه چیز در بیاریم، احتمالاً به 2 تا چیز میرسیم که من این رو بهتون میگم، به 2 تا نتیجه میرسیم.
While we are asking these questions from ourselves and we answer them from our heart, from our subconscious, we get to the two things that I'm going to explain to you what these 2 things are.
و این دوتا چیز بستگی به کاراکتر ما و نوع زندگی ما مخصوصا در دوره کودکی و نوجوانیمون داره.
And these two things are really related to our character and especially our childhood.
ممکنه ما به یه شخصیت برسیم، به یه آدم، به یه سری آدم ها برسیم که نمیدونیم اصلا اینا تو چه موقعیتی هن، داستانشون چیه، ولی سری آدم که جالبن برامون. این یکی از نتایجه.
We might get into to a character or a couple of characters that they are not really related to each other. We don't know who they are really, but sometimes we get to one of the things that we get to is those characters that are interesting.
نتیجه دومی که از این در واقع گفتگوی با ناخودآگاهمون به دست میاریم اینه که به یه موقعیت خاص دست پیدا کنیم. نمیگم به یه داستان یا نریتیو یا درام، میگم به یه موقعیت خاص میتونیم دست پیدا کنیم.
And the second thing that we might get to is like a very special situation or condition. I'm not saying a narrative, I'm not saying a story, I'm just saying a very interesting condition or situation.
من معمولا وقتی که این مرحله رو میگذرونم به نتیجه دومی میرسم به یه موقعیت، نه به یه شخصیت.
I usually, when I answering those questions, when I'm thinking about those subconscious questions, when I answer them, I usually get into the situation, the interesting situation.
و نه کاراکتر.
And not the characters, just the situation.
ولی بعضیا میدونم که وقتی این کارو میکنن به یه شخصیت جالب میرسن.
But I know that some other people, when they start doing this, they get into an interesting character.
من وقتی که به یه موقعیت رسیدم شروع میکنم این موقعیت رو بدون که توجه داشته باشم که آدم‌های تو این موقعیت کیا هستن، چه ویژگی‌هایی داشته باشن، یه خورده باز این موقعیت رو با سوال کردن از خودم دیولپ کنم.
When I get into this situation, I start asking again more questions without giving make the characters black and white. I start to develop the situation more and more for myself.
نه اصلا بلک اند وایت هم نه فرزاد، اصلا کاراکتر پردازی نمیکنم، اصلا نمیدونم کی هست، فقط موقعیت رو گستر.
So I just don't ever think about the characters. I don't do the characters development at all. I just think about the situation and condition.
در مراحل بعدی سعی میکنم این موقعیت رو با تاکید بر اینکه نمیدونیم چه کاراکترهایی توی این موقعیت قرار گرفتن براش یه آغاز پیدا کنم و یه پایان.
And then by asking questions, I start with this character in them, which I don't know anything about the characters. I try to find the beginning and the end for this situation.
یعنی یه موقعیت که بشه توی یه 3-4 جمله برای خودم تعریفش کنم، بس اول داشته باشه و ته داشته باشه.
So basically, I try to find a situation that I can explain it to myself with 3 or 4 sentences, which has a beginning and an end.
بذارین یه مثال بزنم که واضح باشه.
Let me give you an example to make it more clear.
راجع به فیلم جدایی میگم این مثال رو همیشه، چون که آدما دیدنش و شاید ساده تره، بحث ما رو ساده تر میکنه برای فهمیدن.
I always give the example of the separation because most of the people have seen it and make their conversation go easier.
در واقع فیلم جدایی برای من از ناخودآگاه هم با یه عکس، با یه تصویر شروع شد.
A separation started for me with an image.
که این ایمیج از در واقع خاطره‌ای بود که قبلا برادر بزرگ من برام تعریف کرده بود و توی ناخودآگاه من این ته‌نشین شده بود.
And it was an image that my older brother has told me before and it was synced into my subconscious.
تصویر یه مردی که داره پدرش رو توی حمام میشوره.
An image of a man who's washing his father in a bathroom.
همه چیز با این تصویر شروع شد برای من.
Everything started with that image for me.
چند سال قبلش برادر من تعریف کرده بود که پدر بزرگی که ما داشتیم و خیلی دوستش داشتیم و خیلی قهرمان کودکی ما بود، آلزایمر گرفت و برادر من ازش نگهداری میکرد و یه بار که برده بودش حمام پدر بزرگ من اجازه نمیداده که لباسش رو در بیارن تو حمام و نمیشناخته کسی رو و اینقدر وضعیت غم انگیزی بوده که برادر من سرش رو میذاره رو شونه‌اش و زیر دوش گریه میکنه. این لحظه، این تصویر رو من خیلی تاثیر گذاشته و مونده بود توی من.
My brother once told me that our grandfather, that we all really loved him very much. He was like kind of our hero. He started losing his memories. He had Alzheimer's, and he told us that one time he wanted to take our grandfather, my brother wanted to take our grandfather in the bathroom to wash him, but he wouldn't let him to take off his clothes, and he didn't know anybody around. And he said that, and my brother started crying when that happened. And that was an image that was really impacted me and never went away in my head.
در واقع وقتی میگه این ایمیج، اون لحظه‌ای که داره سرشو گذاشته رو شونه پدر بزرگ و گریه میکنه، اون یه عکس، یه فریم بود.
So basically when I say image, I mean like that moment that he said that he put his head on the father's shoulder and crying, that was like a snapshot in my head.
و سالها بود که این فراموش نمیشد بدون اینکه من اصلا تصمیم داشته باشم از این استفاده بکنم.
And for years I never forgot that snapshot in my head without really thinking about I have to use this.
و بعد شروع کردم سوال کردن راجع به این تصویر.
And then I started asking questions about this image.
این مرد کیه؟
Who is this man?
چرا خودش داره پدرش رو میشوره؟
Why he himself is washing his father?
چرا خانوادهش کجان؟
Where are his family?
چرا یه پرستاری نگرفته؟
Why he doesn't have a nurse, in-home nurse?
آیا خانوادهش باهاش زندگی میکنن یا اونا رفتن؟
Does his family living with him or they have left?
اگه در واقع زنش ول کرده رفته، رفته.
نفهمیدم جملتون رو ببخشید، صدا اومد.
زنش رفته، چرا ول کرده رفته؟ علت اینکه ول کرده رفته چیه؟
If the wife has left, why she has left? What is the reason for it?
آیا بچه‌ای دارن؟
Do they have a kid?
پس من شروع کردم راجع به این موقعیت رو بیشتر بشناسم، بدون که بدونم این مرد در واقع کارش چیه، چه جور آدمیه، آدم در واقع سنتیه، مدرنه، ولی فکر کنم این موقعیت این خانواده رو بیشتر بشناسم.
So I try to understand the situation of this family without really asking myself more questions about who he is really. I just try to create the situation around him better.
و بعد رسیدم به چند جمله که میشه گفت که یه داستان بود که فقط شروع داشت و پایان.
And then I reached a few sentences that you can say it was kind of a story that only had a beginning and an end.
و این بود که این داستان مردیه که پدرش آلزایمر گرفته و همسرشون رو رها کرده و در نگهداری پدرش مشکل داره و ناچار میشه دوباره به همسرش برگرده که بتونه از پدرش نگه داره.
And this is a story of a man who has a father who has Alzheimer's and his wife has left him and he has a problem taking care of his father and he has to go back to his wife and ask for her help.
این داستان دو خطی که شروع و ته داره به مرور هرچی میره جلوتر میشه سه خطی، میشه یه صفحه‌ای و هی تغییر میکنه. این یه چیز فیکسی نیست.
And this like 3-line story, as you go ahead, as you continue working on it, it becomes like 4 lines, 5 lines, 1 page, and it changes constantly. It's not something written in stone.
بعدی که من رسیدم به یه چیز مثلا چند صفحه‌ای که تونستم کاملا موقعیت این خانواده رو توضیح بدم، تازه وارد این مرحله میشم که این آدما کیا هستن، چه پرسونال، در واقع چه شخصیتی دارن.
After I really managed to explain the situation of this family completely, then I start thinking about who are these people, what character they have. So I start in the character development.
پس توی شکلی که من کار میکنم، بقیه ممکنه متفاوت کار کنم و هیچ عیبی نداره، ولی شکلی که من کار میکنم اول موقعیت و بعد کاراکتر.
So in the form that I work, and I mean other people work in different ways, but the form that that I work is first the condition, is the first the situation, and then the characters.
چرا این کارو میکنم؟ به این دلیل که من همیشه فکر کنم که آدم ها توی موقعیت ها که شناخته میشن. اگه موقعیت ها فلت باشه، هیچ اتفاقی نیفته، آدم ها همه شبیه به همن.
And why I do that? Because I feel like the characters show themselves in the conditions, in the situations. If the situation is flat, the characters, they don't have a chance to really show who they are.
و آدما توی سیچویشن، توی شرایط، توی در واقع موقعیت های مختلف کاراکترهای مختلفی از خودشون نشون میدن. بس اینکه ما چه موقعیتی رو داریم تعریف میکنیم.
And people show the different part of the characters in the different situations. It depends what situation we are explaining to the audience.
پس اول این سیچویشن، این موقعیت رو تعریف میکنم و بعد میرم کاراکتر پردازی و بعد وقتی این دوتا ترکیب شد من تازه میرسم به یه چیزی به نام تریتمنت.
So first I start to explain the situation to myself, and then after I've done that, I go to the character development, and when I have both of them together, I get to something that I call a treatment.
این یه خلاصه‌ای بود از کل چیز که ممکنه فقط برای دانشجوها ممکنه جالب باشه.
This is like a summary of like how I work that can be interesting to the students, only for the students.
Yeah. Yes, so I'm getting so many questions already, and there's one related to this, and there are many other questions, but somebody, one of the students asks, is it important to feel an emotion, this emotion that you spoke about, while writing or ideating a screenplay? Is it important to feel it while shooting and editing too? How do you ensure what you feel reaches efficiently to the audience? Do you allow that emotion to change a bit? Please take us through that.
No. این در این مرحله شما یه کار خیلی خصوصی پرایوتی میکنید که تو دنیای توی دنیای خودتونید. به بعد که این فیلم رو کی میخواد ببینه، چگونه ساخته میشه، این یه پروسه مثل در واقع بارداریه، یه چیز پرایوته. اینا در حال ما اصلا به اون چیزا فکر نمی کنیم، چون اگه فکر کنی دیگه از استفاده از ناخودآگاه اینا میای بیرون و شروع میکنی حساب کتاب کردن.
So at this stage, you're not thinking about any of those things. You don't think about how you make this movie, which audience is gonna see this movie. It's a very personal matter. It's really between you and yourself. It's like being pregnant. It's a very, very personal, because if you start thinking about those things, then you start giving answers that it's not from yourself, from your subconscious. So it's at this stage, it's just very personal.
یکی از چیزایی که بچهای جوان رو من جای مختلف دنیا که باشون صحبت کردم همیشه ذهنشون رو درگیر میکنه و از اون دنیای خودشون و از ناخودآگاه خودشون دورشون میکنه، اینه که یه خورده عجله میکنن که برن سر مراحل بعدی، چون این مرحله خسته کننده یه، چون تو تنهایی. مراحل بعدی آدمای دیگه هستن، میتونی باشون حرف بزنی و لذت داره. و عجله میکنن و این عجله باعث به چیزایی که بعدتر باید فکر کنن الان فکر کنن و از اون خلوت در بیان.
So one of the things that I've seen when I talk to the young filmmakers, young students, all around the world, is that they want to hurry things up in this stage, because it's a very kind of boring stage, because it's between you and yourself. You have to talk to yourself constantly, and it can be boring because students usually like to just jump to the next stages, so there are other people, so they can talk to them, they can share ideas and things moving on. But then جمله آخرتون گفتین که اینجا خراب میشه اگه چیز نکنن.
ولی اگر سراغ مراحل بعدی این در واقع خلوت خودمون رو از دست میدیم و خراب میشه همه چی.
If we go to the next stages very fast, we loses this me time that you need to have before making the film.
پس در این مرحله فکر نمی‌کنیم.
So at this stage, we don't think about the next stages.
Oh. It is a moment of absolute privacy with yourself, basically. Like that's what I understand. where you
And
understand more about yourself and you are in conversation with yourself.
آره و مشکل اینه که چرا میگم خسته کننده است، چون وقتی آدم با خودش داره مکالمه میکنه، حرف میزنه، خودش رو تشویق نمیکنه، همیشه تنبیه میکنه و سرزنش میکنه و همین دلیل دوران خوبی نیست، چون مدام داری خودت محاکمه میکنی که این خوبه این بده، ولی باید گذرون این دوران رو.
And the reason I'm saying this stage can be boring is because when you talk to yourself, you usually you don't encourage yourself. That's how the mind works. You usually punish yourself, and that's why it's not a fun moment to be in. But you need to go through it before you start the other stages.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing this process with us, Mr. Farhadi. And, I'm sure students here will really benefit from this. There was a question that I wanted, but I see students are also asking this. So I'm going to just frame it and tell it to you. Your work, like when we think of Iranian cinema, we think of two mostly broad schools. So one is the new wave, as a lot of us have classified it. The cinema of Kiarostami, cinema of Makhmal, and that school. And the other school is Beizai, Kimiyai, and the Dariush Merjui. This other school, I feel, and that you borrow a lot from there, because you also use actors. Pardon? Students, can I please request you to mute yourselves, because I think you don't know that you are talking and we are hearing a lot of that. So please mute yourselves so we can have this conversation. Sorry about that. So, Mr. Farhadi, you have perfected the art, even from the very beginning, of using actors, building a drama in a certain way that the other filmmakers have not. It wasn't their priority. But for you, engaging audiences through characters, through this event, or the movement in your story that you are speaking about, was so important. And a lot of us are curious to know how your method of working with actors. You have worked with like in a place where people worked with bazigars or non-actors. You have worked with actors like Golshifte, Tarane Ali Dusti, Peyman Madi, Shahab Hosseini, Penelope Cruz, Javier Bardem, and the list goes on. It seems like language doesn't restrict you. You made a film in Spain, you made a film in France. And how do you work with actors? And how do you, and somebody over here asked that your films, it seems so effortless. It feels like they're not acting. So can you share this process with the students, please?
اوکی. این موضوعی که مطرح کردین دو بخش داره. من اول راجع اون بخش اول صحبت میکنم، اون دو نوع سینمایی که اشاره کردین.
The subject you talked about has two parts, and I try to talk about the first part first.
همونجور که گفتین، نه فقط در ایران، در کشورهای دیگه هم ممکنه اینجوری باشه. ما مثلا در ایران، حالا این خیلی پررنگ‌تره، یه نوع سینمایی داریم که خیلی شبیه به زندگیه، به زندگی وفاداره، و یه نوع سینما به در واقع بیشتر به درام و داستان نزدیک میشه و داستانگویی براش در واقع اهمیت داره.
And we have this in our country, in Iran, and there's in other countries it's kind of the same as well, that we have two kinds of cinema. We have one cinema that is very close to life itself, and we have another cinema that is close to drama.
ما خوشبختانه توی ایران تو هر دو نمونه‌های بسیار موفق و شاهکارهای زیادی ساخته شده، ولی در جاهای دیگه و حتی در کشور خودمون بعضی از در واقع فیلم‌ها احساس می‌کنم که چرا شبیه اون شاهکارا نشدن که راجعش الان توضیح میدم.
Thankfully, we have in Iran, we have the masterpieces in both kind of cinemas. But sometimes I feel like there are like movies that are not that successful, and I ask myself why they were not successful in in those terms, and I want to explain why right now.
بعضی از فیلم هایی که در واقع به زندگی وفادارن و تصویری با نگاه اون سازنده از زندگی ارائه میدن، چون فاقد درام هستن و داستان ندارن و ضد قصه‌ن، گاهی برای تماشاگر عادی خسته کننده به نظر میان، اگرچه فیلم های ارزشمندی هن و زیبان و تماشاگری که در واقع خیلی کارشون
Please mute yourselves,
بفهم.
students.
So
Sorry.
I just a parenthesis. I know the admin can mute everyone, by the way.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
آقای فرد من تا اینجاشو بگم.
بگین. آره.
So you know the movies that are loyal to life, they're close to life, and many of them are very beautiful and really valuable films. They are anti-drama, they are anti-story, and therefore sometimes the ordinary, the common audience gets bored when they watch those movies. Although again, they're very beautiful movies and they're very valuable.
از اون ما یه نوع فیلم هایی داریم که درام خیلی قوی توشه و داستان های خیلی جذابی دارن، ولی از نگاه منتقدا یا نگاه کارشناسا انگار که یکم از زندگی واقعی دورن، واقع گرایی توشون نیست.
And on the other side of this coin, we have the movies that have a very strong drama, very strong and attractive stories, but through the eyes of some critics and like some experts of cinema, there are lack life in them, like they are far away from the real life.
در واقع مثل اینی که ما یه طرف واقع گرایی درش در واقع محور اصلی و یه طرف درام.
So basically, it seems that in one side we have like films that they have realism in them, which is their forte and their strong part. And the other one is drama. The other movies that are the strong suit is the drama.
چیزی که من در واقع دنبالش بودم و هستم و همچنان برام خیلی در واقع جذابه اینه که چگونه میشه این دوتا رو با ترکیب کرد. این دوتا به نظر نمیان که ترکیب شدنی باشن، چون وقتی راجع به واقعیت صحبت کنید درامی درش اون شکلی که جذاب باشه نمیشه طراحی کرد. وقتی یه درام دارید در واقع طراحی میکنید نمیشه همه منطقای واقع گرایی رو توش رعایت کرد. این دوتا ترکیب شدنی نیستن، ولی من تمام این سالها به لحاظ تکنیکی دنبال این بودم که چگونه این دوتا رو ترکیب کنن که با هم آشتی کنن این دوتا.
And the thing that is attractive to me personally is that how to combine and merge these two things together, that like have a movie that is very close to life but at the same time has a strong drama, because when you have a movie that has a lot of drama, it seems that it cannot contain the parts of the real life together. So from technical standpoint, all these years I've been trying to really merge and combine these two things together.
بعضی جاها دیدم نوشتن که فیلم های من یه پلیه بین این دوتا. خودم احساس میکنم یه پلیه. به نظرم یه تلاشه برای ترکیب دوتا چیزی که با همدیگه کمتر ترکیب میشن، درام و واقع گرایی.
So I've read in different places that people have said that my movies are like a bridge between these two things, but I don't believe it's a bridge. It's really a combination of both of them together, drama and reality.
خب من حالا در ادامه
sorry, drama or realism.
realism, yeah. حالا در ادامه میخوام بگم که من اگر جایی در واقع نابازیگر استفاده میکنم، بازیگری که تجربه نداره یا تجربه تئاتر داره یا اولین بارش جلوی دوربین، همیشه در ترکیب با بازیگر حرفه‌ای میذارم. یعنی این ترکیب اون نوع سینما با این نوع سینما رو با هم کنار هم و اینا حاصلش خیلی خوب میشه، چون در واقع بازیگرها بازیگرای حرفه‌ای در کنار نابازیگرا یه جور شبیه نابازیگرا بازی میکنن و تاثیر میگیرن از نابازیگرا و فیلم به واقع گراییش در واقع کمک میشه.
And when I use non-actors in my movies, or the actors who doesn't have that much experience, or they only have the did theater before in their lives, uh, I really use them combined with the real professional actors, because combining these two together, they affect each other. They have an impact on each other. And the professional actors starts to act more like non-actors, and that brings the realism out. So it makes this combination. It's just like, again, combining drama with realism.
Okay.
It's a collision that brings out your what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
در واقع چیزی که مهمه اینه که هدف اینه که ما به این دلیل درام توی فیلم میاریم که تماشاگر عادی هم بتونه جذاب باشه برای فیلم براش و خسته نشه. قصه چیزیه که همه انسان ها براشون جذابه و من قصه توی فیلم میارم. هدفم خود قصه نیست، هدفم اونه که در واقع اون زندگی رو که دارم نشون میدم بورینگ، خسته کننده نباشه برای تماشاگر. به همین خاطر در واقع درام رو اضافه میکنم به زندگی واقعی. در واقع این فیلم ها یه زندگی روزمره دراماتیکن.
So the reason that I add drama into my movies, because I want the common audience also, because we all love stories. Stories is something that everybody loves. And I want the common audience enjoy the movies as they watching the realism, because again, real drama attracts the audience like it. So therefore the movies that I'm telling is the realistic dramatic movies.
Or ordinary dramatic, yeah.
Ordinary dramatic.
Maybe.
Real life drama.
Yeah, because your films talk a lot about the mundane and how everything changes. I feel like it is like one small miscalculation in your films. Mostly it's one small miscalculation, maybe one small white lie, or something very banal, very ordinary that results into tragedy and changes the order of the world. So in your films, I feel the drama begins from the
small stuff. Yeah.
Small,
Yeah, that's
simple thing.
Yeah. این شبیه زندگی واقعی هم اینجوریه. با همیشه با چیزای کوچیک بحرانای بزرگ به وجود میاد.
It's like the real life. In a real life, always the big crisis happens with a very small stuff that happened before.
همه دعواها من دقت کردم با یه چیز خیلی کوچیک شروع میشه و آروم آروم بزرگ میشه.
Yes, all the fights between people, I paid attention. They always start with the small stuff and then gradually grows.
همینجور که همه نفرت ها واقعا با یه لحظه کوچیک، با یه کلمه کوچیک آغاز نفرت هاست. همینجور که عشق ها ممکنه با یه نگاه کوچیک، با یه کلمه کوچیک، و در زندگی واقعی واقعا همه چیز با اون جزئیات آغاز میشه.
Right. As if like a hatred starts with a single word, or the love starts with just one look. Everything in life starts with these very small things. They start with a very mundane small stuff.
نکته غم انگیز اینه که ما همینجوری فکر کنیم که تصمیم گیری های بزرگ زندگی رو باید بهش فکر کنیم، اونان که مهمن و برای اونا وقت میذاریم، مشاوره میکنیم، سرچ میکنیم، مثلا که چه دانشگاهی بریم، چه شغلی انتخاب کنیم، چه شهری زندگی کنیم. ولی برای چیزای ریز کوچیک چون بی اهمیتن ما فکر نمی کنیم و همینجوری انجام میدیم و اینه که باعث بحران میشه.
The sad thing is that we always try to think about a lot about the big decisions, like which school we should go to, which city I have to live in, and we put a lot of energy and thoughts into these big decisions, and we don't pay attention to the small decisions because they feel like very small. But at the end of the day, this is like all these small decisions that we didn't pay attention to which are making all this crisis happen.
و من توی همه فیلم هم سعی کردم که این بخش رو همیشه مراقب باشم که بحران هایی که کاراکترها درگیرش شدن با یه در واقع سوء تفاهم، با یه بی‌دقتی، با یه لغزش کلامی شروع بشه.
And I always tried in my movies to start the crisis with these small things, with like very چی گفتیم کلماتتون که چی بود؟ With a misunderstanding, with a misunderstanding. Yes, with like being with misunderstanding, with like a small carelessness, with like a slip of the word in your mouth, like this kind of a smaller stuff that starts crisis.
این کارو که میکنم اون وقت اون بخش ترکیب درام با واقعیت معنی پیدا میکنه. من وقتی میگم که ترکیب درام با واقعیت، این یه چیز مجازی نیست، این در واقعیت باید اتفاق بیفته. ما چگونه میتونیم یه درامی داشته باشیم که به زندگی هم نزدیک باشه؟ اینه که شروع بحران‌های اون درام با متریال ریز جزئیات روزمره باشه.
And when I say combining drama with realism, that's what I mean, because that's how you can. When I talk about like making a drama out of the real life, that's how it starts. Because I'm not talking about something virtual. I'm talking about real things that are happening with like this is smaller stuff that happens in real life that causes drama.
Okay. Thank you so much. There is a question where someone asks, can you elaborate, give a specific example of how do you rehearse scenes a lot with actors? So they want to understand specifics, because these are directors, going to be directors, budding directors who are going to start working with actors very soon for the industry. So they want to know some tips, how do you rehearse a lot? What is your method? And what is this hyper realistic acting tradition in Iran, and how do you continue that? Because this stress on realism in Iranian cinema is heavy. So how do you work around that?
تقریبا میشه گفت که به نسبت در واقع چیزی که معموله در سینما، من تمرین زیاد میکنم. در بعضی از فیلم ها این خیلی زیاده، در بعضی از فیلم ها کمتر تمریناتم.
Well, you can say that compared to what is usual in cinema, compared about rehearsal, I do a lot of rehearsals compared to what is normal. But in some movies it's a very much so, but in some movies are not that much.
مثلا برای فیلم قهرمان تمرینات ما چیز حدود 10 ماه طول کشید. برای فیلم در واقع درباره الی فکر کنم 2-3 ماه طول کشید. بستگی داره هر فیلمی چقدر در واقع نیاز داشته باشه به تمرین.
For example, for The Hero, my last movie, my last movie, we were rehearsing for 10 months. But for About Ellie, we only rehearsed for 3 months, you said, Asghar Farhadi, or 2 months?
Almost 3 months, yeah.
Almost
yes.
3 months. So it really depends on how much the movie requires rehearsal. It changes movie from movie.
ولی این نکته ظریفی رو من کم کم فیلم به فیلم که اومدم جلو بهش رسیدم.
But there is something delicate that I understood as I started working on more movies.
توی این تمرینا بعضی فکر کنن این تمرینا برای اینه که بازیگر نقشش رو واقعی تر بازی کنه، که درست هم هست و فکر کنم فقط هدف اینه. ولی حالا چیزی داد
میشه دوباره گفت؟
بله. بعضی در واقع تا یه زمانی من فکر می‌کردم که
یاره من اینترنت یه لحظه آقای فرهادی، یه لحظه صدای منو دارین؟
اوکی.
آره.
یه لحظه بذاری من اینترنتم خوب نیست. یه لحظه من اینترنتم. I have to change my internet.
Okay.
It's
So I can
cutting out. I can't hear you
can
well.
you come? So some directors and even myself till my fourth or fifth films, my goal by doing rehearsals was getting closer to the realism being more real. I mean, all actings. But later, I changed my goal, and my goal for that long rehearsals was knowing actors and making connection between characters and actors. So by this rehearsals is more useful for director than actors. When you are working with actors in a small room, the rehearsals in my film is not like just reading scenes. We don't read any scenes. We just do some rehearsals, which is not inside the film. It's completely new things that we don't use it in film. But I make some situation for them, and I propose today to them, go and play this situation, and we repeat it. And then me as director and he or she as an actor and actress, they can feel the atmosphere, the mood of that situation, and they can take it for the film. Okay, Ryan, are you back? So he's not
I
here.
think
Okay.
I think he's connecting his internet, but this was very clear.
Okay, so in the rehearsal, sometimes for some actor, for some roles, you don't need doing any rehearsal. They are good. You don't need touch them. You say, okay, be ready. We start shooting. But for other actors, maybe you think, yeah, they need rehearsals. So for rehearsals, you need a plan, like shooting plan. Sometimes some actors, they should work together. Sometimes they don't need to meet each other till before shooting. You need write what you want for that period. And without that plan, all rehearsal is like just losing time, because some students, they do this rehearsal, but it doesn't have any benefit in the end. And there's two kind of actors. In the beginning of rehearsals, if you don't know your actor, you start to getting know this part of actors. So some actors, they start finding the character, the role, from outside to their inside. It's a little complicated. Some actors, when you want explain them, first you should explain the look of character to them. So you say, he's tall, his shoulder is like broken shoulder, his head always is like not straight head. The way he or she walks is like this. So you start talking to them about the look of character, and then they change outside of themselves, and then you start talking about layers of the characters, like which part of society they live, and about all personalities. But the other part of actors, you don't need to start from their look. You just start from their emotion. This is a very, you can start to say, this is a very shy person. This is a very indirect person. But by this, and make situations and for doing this kind of rehearsals. So in the first part of your rehearsals, you understand which kind of character, which kind of actors you are working with them, and you separate them. Okay. Ryan, are you back? No, he has problem with his Wi-Fi.
No. Okay. So, but he's muted. Okay, I'm going to just write to them
Okay,
asking.
I'm back.
He's here.
Thank
Oh,
you.
perfect. Okay.
I explain again. فرزاد اینو خلاصه براشون بگو که دو نوع بازیگر داریم. بازیگرایی که از اول باید بیرونشون رو درست کنی تو تمرینا و بعد درونشون و کاراکترشون رو پیدا میکنن. یعنی وقتی میرن جلو آینه خودشون رو میبینن، کم کم درونش پیدا میکنن. بعضی از هنرپیشه‌ها هستن که اول باید راجع به منتالیتی کاراکتر باش صحبت کرد، خود به خود اونا بیرونشون و راه رفتنشون و نگاهشون و دستشون درست میشه.
So to summarize this very fast, Mr. Farhadi wants to say that there are two kinds of actors. There are some kind of actors that you have to fix their outside first. So they are the kind of actors that they have to wear the costume, they see themselves in the mirror, and that's how they start working and they start to find the role. But there are other actors that you have to first change them from inside. You have to talk to them about their mentality and stuff like that. And when you correct their mentality about the role, their outside gradually becomes correct then by itself.
Mhm. Yeah, great. This is very insightful, and in fact, what you said about bringing drama within the mundane before continuing that was a very interesting thing to know. And in fact, I also see in some of your work that you have given tribute to some filmmakers like Kiarostami, who I guess have also, I mean, I feel like even in the Spanish film, you know, there is this shot of one solitary tree in the landscape, and in your other films also, I feel that a part of you is giving tribute to them, and you talk about Kiarostami a lot also. And in many cases, I feel you have poetic parts in your cinema too. So I see that blending together of the realism and of drama, and that comes beautifully in your films. Yeah.
خوشبختی من بوده که من در کشوری هستم که این فیلمسازای بزرگ مثل آقای کیارستمی، مثل آقای مهرجویی و خیلی های دیگه در موقع که من نوجوان بودم میتونستم فیلم های اونا رو ببینم.
It was really my fortunate that I was born and raised in a country that had these all great filmmakers, but which I was able to watch their movies when I was growing up.
Yes, sir. There are so many questions, and I am trying to filter some. But there is, I feel, a question that a lot of people are asking on your process of writing, because even in continuation, there are still many questions about your first idea, about, you know, the conscious and the unconscious mind. But if you, I think, talk about how you translate an idea to a screenplay, then, you know, the students who are beginning their writing can benefit.
من تا یه بخشیش رو گفتم، تا جایی که به یه تریتمنت رسیدیم. سعی می‌کنم بقیه‌اش هم به شکلی که مفید باشه برای بچه‌ها بگم. الان
چی شد؟ Mute.
right. So
Okay, sorry. So I because when I wanted to clear my throat, I muted myself, but I don't have the ability to unmute myself. Sorry.
I think
so.
Let's not do that. Because,
yeah, this is last time. So I talked about writing until the moment that we get to the treatment. I can talk a little bit more about what happens after that.
ما وقتی که تریتمنت اون رو، مثلا من کاری که میکنم به 10-15 صفحه رسیدم، اینجا جاییه که با چند تا آدم اون رو شیر میکنم و در میون میذارم و میدم که بخونند.
when I get to the 10 to 15 pages of treatment, this is the moment that I start to share that treatment with some of my close friends and to have them read it and tell me what they feel.
اون چیزی که در واقع بعد از خوندن این تریتمنت به من میگن، اون احساسی که میدن، مهمترین چیزی که دنبالش هم اینه که آیا این قصه براشون خسته کننده است یا نیست.
When I give them the treatment, the most important thing for me while I listen to them is that this a story boring to them or not?
چیز دیگه ای نمیپرسم.
I don't ask anything else.
وقتی منظورم از این سوال که میپرسم آیا خسته کننده است یا نه، اینه که شروع کنم راجع به استراکچر فیلم کار کردن، چون استراکچر چینش یه سری اتفاقا پشت سر همه به شکلی که با این نوع سینمایی که ما داریم راجع صحبت میکنیم خسته کننده نشه و درام ایجاد کنه.
And I don't ask for anything else. And the reason is for that, because I want to work on the structure of the film, because it's kind of the film that we are working on in order to not making it any boring, the movie any boring, because it's about the real life. The structure is very important. So I just want to start working on the structure first and foremost before doing anything else.
وقتی استراکچر رو براتون یه مثالی میزنم که واضح تر باشه.
I'll give you an example for a structure to make it more clear.
ما وقتی میخوایم یه ساختمانی بسازیم و یه سقفی رو بنا کنیم، یه سری ستون نیاز داریم.
When we are making a building and we have to put the roof over the building, we need some, what do you call it? Hold on. Columns, yes. We need some columns to put the roof over.
گاهی این ستون‌ها اگه زیاد از هم دور باشن، این سقف رو نگه نمی‌دارن و میاد پایین.
Sometimes when these columns are too far away from each other, they can't hold to the roof and the roof falls down.
اگه گاهی اینا خیلی به هم نزدیک باشن، خیلی چیز نازیبایی میشه و سقف درست قرار نمیگیره باز روش.
And when they are very close to each other, sometimes they look not that beautiful. They look ugly and the roof doesn't look good on it as well.
من در استراکچر اولین کاری که میکنم فاصله بین اتفاقات و موقعیت ها رو تنظیم میکنم با هم.
The first thing that I do in the structure is that to fix the spaces between these moments, these columns in the film.
بین موقعیت ها، فاصله بین موقعیت ها و بحران های توی فیلم رو تنظیم میکنم.
So I adjust the space between the situations in the conditions in the film, situations in the film and the crisis in the film.
که دو تا در واقع موقعیت بحرانی نزدیک به هم نباشن یا خیلی هم دور از هم نباشن.
So to make sure that two crises in the movies are not very close to each other or not too far from each other.
توی بحث استراکچر وقتی که دارم روی استراکچر کار میکنم، مثل یه دومینوه که این پازل‌ها پشت سر هم قرار میگیره، یکیشو میندازی بعدی رو میندازه بعدی رو میندازه. اگه اینا فاصلهشون زیاد باشه نمیخورن به هم، روی هم تاثیر نمیذارن.
When working on a structure, it's like putting the dominoes pieces together, that when you push one of them, it hits the other one and it goes forward and hits each domino pieces together. If they're very far away from each other, they don't hit each other.
پس در مرحله بعدی که من تریتمنت رو نوشتم، روی ساختار کار میکنم و بعد که ساختار در اومد روی روایت کار میکنم.
So the next stage after I finish with the treatment is working on the structure, and when I'm done with the structure, I start working on the narrative.
منظورمون از روایت چیه؟
What do we mean by narrative?
راجع به روایت خیلی حرف میزنن، ولی یکی از مبهمترین کلمات توی فیلمنامه نویسی.
There are so many people talk about narrative, but it's one of the most ambiguous words in the writing a script.
به نظرم روایت نشون میده که زاویه نگاه شما به عنوان کسی که دارید یه چیز رو تعریف میکنید نسبت به اون چیزی که دارید تعریف کنید چیه؟
I think narrative is something that shows your way of looking, your angle of looking at the situation of and the story, and what you really are interested in the story.
ما در واقع این فیلم ها رو میسازیم، قصه ها رو میسازیم برای به خاطر روایتش. اون روایتشه که ما رو نشون میده، خودمون رو در واقع به دیگران نشون میدیم.
So basically we tell these stories, we write these stories because of the narrative, because it's the narrative that shows us to the world.
ما اگر راجع به ساتیاجیترای صحبت میکنیم و راجع به
That
فیلم‌هاش
shows
صحبت میکنیم،
who we are to the world.
اگر راجع به ساتیاجیترای یا راجع به آقای کیارستمی صحبت میکنیم یا مهرجویی صحبت میکنیم یا فیلمسازهای دیگه مثل دسیکا صحبت میکنیم، اون چیزی که داریم راجع بهش صحبت میکنیم در واقع راجع به روایت هاشون بیشتر داریم صحبت میکنیم.
If we are talking about Satyajit Ray or Abbas Kiarostami or any other filmmakers for that matter, we are mostly or Desika, we are mostly talking about their narratives.
چون که نوع نگاه و جهان بینی و نوع نگاه اونا به زندگی و وقایع رو با روایتشون میشه فهمید.
Because you can understand the way that they look at the world through their narratives.
نوع نگاه آقای کیارستمی به زندگی که یه نگاه در واقع ظاهرا ساده ولی خیلی شاعرانه است رو نوع روایت فیلمشه که داره به ما میگه.
The way that Mr. Abbas Kiarostami, for example, looks at the world, which is very simple on the surface but very complex and very poetic, his narrative shows us that.
روایت رو ما وقتی که میخوایم در واقع توی فیلممون بیاریم، باز برمیگردیم به ناخودآگاهمون ببینیم که ما چگونه دنیا رو میبینیم. ما به همین دلیل خودمون رو باید بشناسیم.
When we talk about narrative again, we have to understand that how we look at the world, and that means that we have to know ourselves again.
ما روایت رو نمیتونیم واقعا از آدمای دیگه قرض بگیریم و تقلید کنیم، چون دیگه اون فیلم ما نمیشه.
With the narrative is something that you can't borrow from other people, because if you do that, that movie wouldn't be your movie anymore.
مثلا من در فیلم هام از یه جایی متوجه شدم که هیچ کاراکتری تا الان ننوشتم که کاراکتر، یا نگم تا الان ننوشتم، قالب کاراکتری که نوشتم خاکستری هستن، خیر و شر، تقسیم به خیر و شر نشدن.
For example, I understood that in my movies, I don't have like a good or evil characters in my movies. The most of my characters are in a gray area.
و این روی این شد در واقع چیزی که کلید اصلی روایت من در همه چیز، در کارگردانی، در نوشتن، در جای دوربین، در همه چیز ناخودآگاه این شد روایت من. حتی روی جای دوربین منم تأثیر گذاشت.
This point became like a password to everything that I do in my movies, like everything, like from putting the camera placement, actors, everything that I do in my movies. This point that the characters are gray became the whole issue that I follow in every steps of my films.
یکم اگه بخوام که در واقع این رو واضح تر بگم، فکر کنم اون چیزی که میگن فرم فیلم در واقع همون روایت فیلمه.
To make this a little bit more clear, I think when people talk about the form of the film, they're basically talking about the narrative of the film.
و فیلمسازهای مؤلف بعد از این مدتی صاحب یه روایت خاص خودشون میشن. کوروساوا یه روایتی، یه نوع در واقع نگاهی به دنیا، به تاریخ و به زندگی داره که توی روایت‌هاش میاد و اون شده فرم فیلم‌های کوروساوا.
And when we talk about author filmmakers, we are basically talking about the way that they do narratives. For example, Kurosawa has the Japanese filmmaker Kurosawa has a very specific narrative, the way that he looks at the world and the way that he looks at the history. It's very Kurosawa, and that became his signature as an author filmmaker.
و فرم میشه فرم در واقع، منظورم این بود.
And that's what we call his form. That's what I mean.
فرم چیزیه که در واقع بعد که استراکچر رو در آوردیم به طور ناخودآگاه توی قصه ما هست، ولی باید مدام مراقب باشیم که از اون خارج نشیم، چون میشیم یه آدم دیگه خودمون نیستیم.
Form, so basically, after we work on the structure, that the narrative is the form, and we have to very much make sure that we are not stepping slightly away from that, because then that movie is not ours anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your process again in so much detail. We have to unfortunately wind up slowly, but if everyone has some time, we can take, like, I can ask 2 questions if that is okay with you.
Yeah.
Just a couple of questions keep coming on sound, and students are asking about how you think of scenes in terms of sound, because in Iranian cinema and in your films, there's a lot of you know, you use a lot of diegetic sound, and you don't necessarily use too much of background score. So they want to know about your process of using and imagining cinema through sound in terms of realism as well.
خب مهمترین چیزی که در واقع توی طراحی صدای فیلم در نظر میگیرم اینه که چون این فیلم‌های واقع گرایان، تماشاگر باور کنه که این یه فیلم نیست، خود زندگی رو داره میبینه.
So one of the most important things when I think about the sound in movies is that because these movies supposed to be like realism, that the audience believe that this is not a sound that the filmmaker put there, but it's a sound of the environment. It's a real sound.
نه، در واقع منظورم این بود که تماشاگر فراموش کنه این فیلمه و فکر کنه یه زندگیه.
So therefore the audience forget that this is a movie he's watching or she's watching, but it's a real life.
ما در واقع یه واقع گرایی داریم و یه زندگی. من این دوتا برام یکم فرق میکنم.
So we basically have 2 things. We have realism and we have life. These 2 are a little bit different for me.
توی فیلم‌های واقع گرا ما موسیقی می‌بینیم، ما افکت می‌بینیم و توی یه چیزایی می‌بینیم که با واقع گرایی خیلی همخوان نیست، ولی به عنوان یه قاعده پذیرفتیم.
In the realistic films, we hear the sounds like the music sometimes here and there, and the sounds that are not real belong to the real life, but as a form, we believe them throughout these years.
ولی وقتی میگیم که فیلمی که شبیه به زندگیه، در واقع نمونه خیلی درستش همون فیلم‌های آقای کیارستمیه که ما واقعا فراموش میکنیم که این فیلم، فکر کنیم توی از یه پنجره‌ای داریم زندگی رو میبینیم. این با واقع گرایی یکم متفاوت.
And when we talk about the movies that are like real life, for example, Abbas Kiarostami's movies are a very good example of that. We completely forget that we are watching a movie. We feel like it's a window to the real life. It's very close to life itself.
Yeah.
توی طراحی چون وقت کمه خیلی وارد دیتیل نمیشم، ولی توی طراحی صدا من تلاشم اینه که اول فکر کنیم که این یه زندگیه، ولی خود صداها بتونه در واقع یه اتمسفر احساسی هم ایجاد کنه، به لحاظ احساسی هم ما رو تحت تاثیر قرار بده.
Because we don't have that much time, I want to just say one thing, that in designing a sound, I want to make sure that the audience feels that what he hears, it's a real life, but at the same time, it creates this emotional atmosphere for the film. Right. So it has an impact, emotional impacts on the audience as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you. There is a very interesting question that I missed out earlier. So somebody asks, can you talk a little bit about a trait in your films where you push the best people into circumstances that bring out the worst in them? Like a lot of your characters are, the most beautiful, innocent characters, but like we spoke about, in the process that they take some small wrong decisions that results in a tragedy, and their worst selves are brought out. So it's a trait in a lot of your films. So maybe you could.
اتفاقا خیلی سوال خوبیه این سوال.
It's a very good question.
ما وقتی میگیم که کاراکترهامون توی یه در واقع خاکستری هستن یا خوب هستن توی موقعیت‌های بد قرار میگیرن، ممکنه یه سوء تفاهم ایجاد کنه این حرفی که من میزنم.
When we say that our characters are in the gray area or they're like good people but in a bad situation, it can make a misunderstanding that I need to explain here.
این معنا نیست که من فکر کنم که همه آدم‌های دنیا خوبن و هر کاری که هر کسی داره میکنه قابل دفاعه و در واقع ما چیزی به اسم شر نداریم. اصلا باور نیست.
This doesn't mean that everybody in the world, all the people in the world are good people and they are not capable of doing bad things and evil doesn't exist. I don't want to say that.
ولی چیزی که میگم اینه که ما به آدم‌هایی هم که در واقع رفتار بد دارن یا شر هستن، اگر توی داستانمون به همون اندازه که به آدم‌هایی که دوستشون داریم زمان میدیم که دلایل کارهای خودشون رو بگن، به اون آدم‌های شر هم زمان بدیم برای دفاع از خودشون، همه کاراکترها میرن تو اون دایره خاکستری.
So basically what I want to do and what I want to say is that when there are like characters who have a bad behavior or they're evil, if you give them those characters even enough time in the film to show them enough in the film, they also gradually move into this gray area.
نه، اینو توضیح کامل نداری. اگر به اونا تایم برای دفاع کردن و گفتن دلایل رفتار بعدشون بدیم، شبیه همون آدمای خوب میشن. اونا لازم احساسی ما اونجوری میشه.
So what Mr. Farhadi wanted to say, I want to clarify that he wants to say if we give them enough time to explain themselves and tell why they're doing what they're doing, they come to this gray area and they become like the good characters in the film.
پس اون چیزی که بعد در مرحله آخری که ما داریم کاراکتر پردازی میکنیم، کاری که من میکنم کاراکتر پردازی رو آخرین مرحله انجام میدم، سعی میکنم ببینم که آیا همه کاراکترهایی که دارم بهشون این فضا رو دادم که دلایل رفتارهای خودشون رو بیان کنن و وقتی این دلایل رو بیان میکنن تماشاگر میتونه اونا رو بفهمه.
So when I'm working at the character development, which is the last stage of my writing process, I look at each character and I try to find out, did I give them enough space or enough time to explain themselves for the audience to understand them emotionally and have like emotional feeling towards them.
این در واقع فضا دادن به اندازه من که دلایل خودشون رو بگن، ممکنه ما به عنوان تماشاگر با اون دلایل موافق نباشیم، ولی به لحاظ احساسی اونا رو میتونیم باشون همراه بشیم.
When I say that I give them enough space to explain themselves, to be able to tell why they're doing what they're doing, we as audience maybe disagree with their reasoning, but we understand them emotionally.
مثل فیلم جدایی، الان شخصیت نادر دلایل اینکه تو این موقعیت این کار رو داره انجام میده رو همیشه تو فیلم به ما میگه، همونجور که همسرش سیمین میگه. ممکنه ما با بعضی از دلایلش اصلا همراه نباشیم، اونجایی که دروغ میگه ممکنه قبول نکنیم، ولی به لحاظ احساسی کاملا باهاش همراهیم و درکش میکنیم.
For example, in the movie A Separation, the Nader's character, he explains himself a lot that why he's doing what he's doing. Same with Simin. And there are lots of his explanation and reasoning that we as an audience may not agree with him, but we understand where he's coming from.
و به لحاظ احساسی همراهش میشیم. مهمینه.
And we are following him emotionally. We emotionally understand. He has an impact.
Yeah. Great. I think we are running out of time and we must wrap up. But just one last thing, sir. You have been making films in very difficult circumstances. I know, we all know that working in Iran, working out of your country is not ideal, and you've been doing that. Your films are a testament of creativity, and unfortunately, that the world we are living in is not becoming an easier place. So, what is your advice to young students? How can they retain that core of creativity even when the world around them crumbles? Please, we really need to know this from you.
من خیلی از نصیحت کردن خوشم نمیاد. اینو به عنوان نصیحت نمیگم، ولی به عنوان یه تجربه به بچه‌ها میگم.
I don't like to give like حالا من نصیحت دقیقا نمیدونم به انگلیسی میشه but I don't like to give like advice to people directly but what I'm telling you is kind of my experience. I'm going to talk to you about my experience.
من فکر کنم که سینما شغل سختیه و باید بپذیریم سخته و چقدر خوب که سخته، چون اگه سخت نبود ارزشی که امروز داشت رو واقعا نداشت و هر کسی میتونست انجامش بده.
I believe that cinema is a very hard career. Film is a very hard career, but that's a good thing because if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't have the value that it has right now.
اون چیزی که باعث میشه علیرغم همه سختی‌هایی که هر فیلمسازی ممکنه باش روبرو بشه، من هیچ موقع از لذت بردن از سینما در واقع نتونم در واقع خودم رو محروم کنم، اینه که من عاشق سینما هستم. یعنی چیزی برام جذابتر از سینما نیست و همه این مشکلات در مقابل اون عشق همیشه خیلی کوچیک بوده.
And the thing that all the filmmakers who have a lot of hardships to make movies, and the thing that I like about is cinema is that I really, truly, genuinely love cinema, and this love makes all the hardship that cinema has easy for me.
آخرین جمله که میخوام بگم جمله‌ای که یکی از فیلمسازهای بزرگ ایرانی گفته و میگه که هنر مثل آب و جاریه و هر چقدر سنگ جلوش بذاری از بغل سنگ راه خودش پیدا میکنه و حرکت میکنه. همه این مشکلات که ممکن جوانایی که الان دارن صدای منو میشنون در هند باش روبرو باشن یا هر جای دیگه، مثل اون سنگاست و شما مثل اون آبه است که بالاخره از کنار سنگ یه جوری راه خودتون رو پیدا میکنید.
And the last thing that I want to say is a quote from a very big Iranian filmmaker that he once said that art is like water, is streaming, and the stones that if you put the stones in front of it, it finds its way from around it. And I want to tell all the young Indian filmmakers who are hearing my voice here is that all the problems that you're facing is like those stones, and you're like water that you can find yourself around those stones and continue streaming.
Yeah, art is going to continue to flow despite whatever happens around us. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you for this incredibly important session that we all needed right now.
Thank you, and I hope next years, I don't know when, I meet you in person.
In person. Yes.
In person.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Over to Anirbanda.
Mute. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. It was really a very, very insightful session, and we got to know how under the mind of a master filmmaker actually work from very, very simple, definite back, decisions and being with it, which ultimately reached cinematic expression. You talked about why we should keep the inner dialogue, talking ourselves as the filmmakers, as we develop an idea and never give up on that. You talked how beautifully that the realism speaks to the drama or the performance and create a very interesting discourse. Your story is embedded in the real. It becomes a slice of the real which you offer. And how beautifully it's not the black and the white, the grays, where the grace is there. And we find you in the film very beautifully. You talked about how many that you talk with actor in two different ways and often to make a lot of rehearsals that the interiority of the character actually resonates with the actor. It fits, it finds its way. Amazing to hear you, sir, as of young filmmakers. I think this would be a tremendous source of inspiration. And as we're from the film school, where we actually a school of practice, I think these are the wisdom which, from practice, we will retain. Thank you so much, sir, for so much of time. I mean, I think, got over 45 minutes more than what we wanted to take from you. And I would sincerely thank and wish you we visit our campus. It would be a very big dream come true for many of us. And I would sincerely thank you, Mr. Farhadi, and of course, Ryan, for this wonderful time. Srimoy, thank you so much for giving this beautiful run through the conversation. And my friend and Professor Shoikotarai in the back-end console, who seriously helped us to continue the e-talks Indian conversation. Our director, Vipin Vijay, for your constant inspiration, and everyone from back-end Team Mercuria and SRFTI, all our participants, friends, fellow filmmakers, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all, guys. Have a nice time and good luck.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You see a group of people traveling in search of something. The night has passed, and the morning seems to be quite happy about this.
আমি মঞ্জিত গাইন থান্নকুড়িয়ার গাইন পরিবারের উত্তরপুরুষ। থান্নকুড়িয়ার গাইন পরিবার এক বর্ধিষ্ণু পরিবার। সেই পরিবারের উত্তরপুরুষ হিসেবে আমি এই বাড়িতে বসবাস করি। আমি পেশায় শিক্ষকতা করি, নেশায় একজন সাহিত্যিক। আমার গোয়েন্দা চরিত্র শতুকার নামও সবাই জানে। আমাদের গ্রামের অন্য দুই পরিবার সাউ এবং বল্লভদের সঙ্গে আমরা আত্মীয়তা সূত্রে আবদ্ধ। আর এই ধান্যকুড়িয়া গ্রাম অনেক প্রাচীন গ্রাম। আমাদের সাউ, গাইন, বল্লভ এই তিনটে পরিবার এখানে আসবার পরে ধান্যকুড়িয়া রমরমা শুরু হয়। सर बगान बाड़ी की हिस्ट्री के बारे में আমাদের ধান্যকুড়িয়ার যে বাগান বাড়ি যেটা সেটা আমাদেরই পরিবারের ধান্যকুড়িয়া গাইন গার্ডেন নামে পরিচিত এবং এটি প্রথম প্রতিষ্ঠা করেন আমার গ্রেট গ্র্যান্ডফাদার মহেন্দ্রনাথ গাইন, যাকে সেই সময়ে বাংলার সুবিখ্যাত পাট ব্যবসায়ী বা জুট লর্ড বলে অভিহিত করা হয়। আমাদের পাট ব্যবসাটা মূলত ইংরেজদের সঙ্গেই ছিল এবং বিদেশে বিশেষ করে ইউরোপে ইংল্যান্ডে আমাদের পাট রপ্তানি হতো এবং যে পাটটা রপ্তানি হতো সেটি স্কটল্যান্ডের গ্লাসগো বলে একটা জায়গা আছে, সেখানে সেই পাটের প্রক্রিয়া করা হয় এবং সেই পাটের এক দুর্দান্ত সুনাম ছিল, তাকে একটা মার্কা পাট বলে অভিহিত করা হতো। আমাদের যে গাইনদের যে পাট, যেটাকে গাইন মার্কা পাট বলা হতো, সেই পাটটা আমাদের যে বিদেশে রপ্তানি হতো এবং তার যে সুনাম হয়েছিল মূলত তার জন্যেই ইংরেজরা আমাদের সঙ্গে সদ্ভাব রাখত। আমরাও ব্যবসায়িক প্রয়োজনে আমাদের পূর্বপুরুষরা তার সঙ্গে সদ্ভাব রাখতেন এবং আমাদের যে গাইন গার্ডেন সেইখানে ইংরেজদের আসা যাওয়া ছিল।
ইংরেজরা গাইন গার্ডেনে আসতো মার্টিন রেলে চেপে। সেই মার্টিন রেলের স্টেশন ছিল গাইন গার্ডেন। সেই মার্টিন রেল থেকে তারা নামতো, রাতে থাকতো, আমাদের গাইন পরিবারের তরফ থেকে তাদের এন্টারটেন করা হতো এবং সকালবেলা তারা সেই মার্টিন রেলে চেপেই তারা ফেরত চলে যেত। এরপরে এই যে সম্পর্ক তৈরি হয় তার জন্যে ইংরেজরা আমাদের গাইন পরিবারকে বলে ধান্যকুড়ি একটা হসপিটাল তৈরি করে দিতে। তখন এখানে নফরচন্দ্র গাইনের নামে নফরচন্দ্র গাইন মাতৃসদন তৈরি হয়, ধান্যকুড়িয়া হাই স্কুল তৈরি হয় শাহু গাইন বল্লভদের যৌথ প্রচেষ্টায়। এবং পরবর্তী সময়ে দেখা যায় ইংরেজরা সেই নফরচন্দ্র মাতৃসদন আনুষ্ঠানিক উদ্বোধনে তৎকালীন বাংলার ছোটলাটের স্ত্রী লেডি এসেছিলেন এবং সেটি বর্তমানে হেরিটেজ হিসেবে স্বীকৃত।
গ্রামে রাস্তাঘাট, পানীয় জল, বিদ্যুৎ সব কিছুই আছে। এই গ্রামের মানুষ এখন অনেক সেলফ ডিপেন্ডেন্ট, কিন্তু একটা সময় এরকম ছিল না। একটা সময় এই গ্রামের যে জমিদাররা ছিল, শাহু বল্লভ গাইন, এরা এই প্রজাদের পেছনে, প্রজাদের পাশে সব সময় সমস্ত ব্যাপারে দাঁড়াতো। আজকে মানুষরা খুব সেইগুলো মিস করে, তারা খুব তাদের জমিদারদের অভাব বোধ করে। যে কোনো বিপদে পড়লেই জমিদাররা সবসময় তাদেরকে সহযোগিতা করত, এবং সেই জমিদাররা দেখা গেছে যে তাদের ঘর পুড়ে গেছে, জমিদাররা এই পাশে দাঁড়িয়েছে। তারা সবসময় জানতো যে আমার পেছনে জমিদার আছে, আমার মাথার উপর জমিদার আছে। আজকে সেইটা তারা খুব ফিল করে। এই গ্রামে জমিদাররা রাসমেলা, যাত্রা মেলা, পংক্তি ভোজন আরও বিভিন্নভাবে গ্রামবাসীদের পাশে সবসময় দাঁড়াতো। একটা সময় অনেক বড় বড় দুর্গাপুজোও এখানে হতো। এই দুর্গাপূজার একটা কাহিনী আছে শ্রুত, সেই কাহিনীটা একটু বলি, না বললেই নয়।
স্বদেশবাসী বন্ধুগণ, এই মাসের 21 তারিখে টোকিও রেডিও হইতে আমি বর্তমান যুদ্ধ পরিস্থিতি বিষয়ে আপনাদিগকে কিছু বলিয়াছিলাম। আজ আমার ইচ্ছা যে গত বছরের ফেব্রুয়ারি মাস হইতে পৃথিবীর বিভিন্ন রেডিও স্টেশন হইতে যাহা বলিয়া আসিয়াছি তাহার পুনরাবৃত্তি করা। সর্বপ্রথমে আমি এই প্রশ্ন তুলিতে চাই যে বর্তমান যুদ্ধের প্রকৃত অর্থ কি এবং এই বিশ্ব সংঘাতের পশ্চাতে কোন কোন শক্তি ক্রিয়া করিতেছে।
স্বাধীনতার যখন সংগ্রাম চলছিল, স্বাধীনতার লড়াইতে, তখন নেতাজি সুভাষচন্দ্র বসু এই গ্রামে এসেছিলেন এবং এই সামনেই যে বাইন বাড়ি, আমাদের বিদ্যালয়ে এসেছিলেন এবং এই সামনে বাইন বাড়ি, সেখানে উনি সমস্ত স্বদেশীদের সঙ্গে নিয়ে ওখানে মিটিং করেন এবং বক্তব্য রাখেন। এটাই গ্রামের মানুষের এখনও পর্যন্ত সেই কল্পনায়, সেই ভাবাবেগে খুব নাড়া দেয়। সবাই খুব গর্ববোধ করে স্বাধীনতা আন্দোলনে তারা এবং জমিদাররা সেই তাদের সঙ্গে সক্রিয় এবং প্রত্যক্ষ পরোক্ষ উভয়ভাবেই তারা সেই লড়াইয়ে অংশ নিয়েছিল।
बोस तो देश को स्वाधीन करने के लिए आया था। ये लोग ब्रिटिश का दलाल था, जमींदार लोग ब्रिटिश का दलाल था। वो लोग जो कहते थे उसी का फायदा लूटने के लिए ये सब गांव वालों को ऊपर बहुत सारे जुल्म किया।
We could see the past, but from different lenses. Explorations did take place, but ended up in contradictions. We didn't know what was right or wrong. We could only imagine.
আজ থেকে বহুত দিন আগে তখন এই গ্রাম জঙ্গলে ভর্তি ছিল। আজকের মতন বসতি ছিল না, হাতে গোনা কয়েকজন লোক এখানে বসবাস করত। তারপরে আস্তে আস্তে সেই জঙ্গল মানুষ তার প্রয়োজনে জঙ্গল কাটতে শুরু করলো। জঙ্গল কাটার পরে দেখা গেল সেই জঙ্গলের ভেতরে একটা ছোট্ট মায়ের মন্দির। সেই মায়ের মন্দির থেকে রাতের অন্ধকারে ভেসে আসতো ঘন্টার আওয়াজ। সেই আওয়াজ শুনে মানুষ মনে করতো এই জায়গাটা খুব পবিত্র। তারা এই মন্দিরের জন্য দান ধ্যান করতে লাগলো। কিন্তু তারপর দেখা গেল যে কোনো একজন ব্যক্তি রাতের অন্ধকারে এসে সেই ঘন্টা বাজাতো এবং যা দান ধ্যান করত সে সবটাই নিজে আত্মসাৎ করত। তারপর থেকে জানার পর থেকে মানুষ সেই সময় বন্ধ করে দিল দান ধ্যান।
Did you hear? The villagers used the name of goddess to earn money. How terrible. So what? At least worshipping the goddess had some benefits to mankind. Are you an atheist? Yes. No, actually. I don't know really what it's like to be an atheist or a theist. The reality is that I know nothing. Then why don't you shut the fuck up? Because knowing nothing is so more convenient than knowing anything at all.
आगे वो मालूम नहीं। आज की पता नहीं।
हम बोले नहीं सकेगा, हम जानता नहीं है।
Our inquiry took a toll when we encountered the indifference from the part of people. By now, the past was somewhat visible, but the present still seemed distant. Whether these were problems of language, or human practice, or systemic organization.